All right, joining me now is Anthony Birchak, and you can see him fight next April the 17th at UFC Vegas 24 when he meets Tony Gravely. Anthony, how's it going?
Good, man. How's it going with you?
I'm doing really good, and I'm excited for this fight with you and Tony. And you must be excited because this camp you've actually been able to get a little bit more time in. You were originally supposed to fight Johnny Eduardo. He wasn't able to make it happen. So just tell me how it's been for you to have that extra time.
Yeah, so the Johnny Eduardo fight, it's not like he had an opponent that fell out. So the UFC made it on 4 weeks notice, and I don't know why. I think it has to do with contracts on his end. I think him being out of the UFC for so long and not being active. I think I think they were just trying to get him something, or at least get his contract done. And by the time I got to Vegas and I got my training camp set up, it was already like 3 weeks. So I really only had 3 weeks to get ready for this. So then that ended up happening with his visa. And they're like, hey, we're going to move your fight to UFC 260 to give him a little bit more time to get his paperwork done. So I felt good. I was able to get into the UFC PI a little bit more. And then all of a sudden on on Sunday night, I hear, hey, it's not going to be Johnny Eduardo anymore. Tomorrow or late tonight, we'll have a new opponent. So Monday came and went, no answer. Tuesday, they offered me a couple of names, and I was just like, man, like a younger me would have said yes, but that was like the kid that was, desperate for money. And like now that I have my own gym and stuff, like wasn't desperate for money. So, it was like kind of a blessing in disguise that I was able to go home for a week. And now I'm back out here in Vegas. But man, it's been such a whirlwind. I'm just glad the UFC finally got me a matchup, and it's stylistically it's great, man. I'm really happy with both of the matchups that they gave me.
All right, well, we'll dive into that matchup with Tony here in a little bit. First, you mentioned about having your own gym. Tell me what it was like, trying to stay afloat and really, thrive during the pandemic. Because I know for everyone, it's been tough, and trying to, have your normal day-to-day life, it's been a little bit more difficult.
I have to tread lightly during these interviews when people ask me how the pandemic affected me, because I sound like an arrogant asshole, and it didn't affect me because I just didn't close down. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't close down. Here's the reason why I couldn't. When everything started happening, it was kind of clear to me that it was silly to begin with. Like the way everybody handled it at the beginning was, it wasn't that serious. So like I never took it seriously. And I think we closed down for like a week and a half. And at the end of that week and a half, I was like at my wit's end with just being inactive. And when I opened back up, obviously I was like underground open. I taped off the window with black plastic, and we were having people coming through the back door, but it didn't affect my business, man. Like very few people actually canceled their memberships. We're a big military town. And I have a lot of first responders, police officers, border patrol agents, law enforcement officers. And the fact that I stayed open for my military veterans that have PTSD and use jiu-jitsu and MMA as a way to, cope with that, I saw I did the right thing. And one of the things I was kind of telling somebody before was the chances of COVID killing you are slim to none, right? The chances of someone killing themselves during all this psychological turmoil that they were going through of being locked down and not being able to go places and shop and do their normal day-to-day things, like that was enough to make some people crack. And like I had a couple of my veterans that were like, Coach, thank you for continuing to be open for us, because I would have crawled into the bottom of a bottle, or I would have kept popping pills, or I would have just fucking swallowed a gun. And like, it was apparent to me at that point that I had done the right thing, and there was people that were like, hey coach, I just can't pay. And I was like, that's fine. You don't have to pay, but just keep coming, because this is going to be good for you in the long run. And the people that still were deemed like essential, I was like, hey guys, please continue your memberships, because we want a place to come back to when this is all said and done, you know? And like, here we are a year later. Like, if I would have been a good little boy and followed the rules and done all that, I wouldn't have had a business to go back to, dude, you know? And so with me, I've sacrificed so much to have what I have today that I wasn't going to let that stand in the way of me. And like, people are like, oh, you're so irresponsible. You're so this, you're so that. And the thing is like, out of the 200 members that I have, less than 10 people got infected, right? And the 10 people that did get infected were frontline healthcare workers, police officers, and people that worked at the airport. You know, and then I got sick because I went and did jiu-jitsu OT on UFC Fight Pass in El Paso, like in July. And it hit me for 2 days, and that was it. I was right back, you know, after I did a 10-day quarantine, I started feeling good, and I went right back to teaching classes. So I feel insensitive saying that it didn't affect me, because I know it affected a lot of people on a lot of businesses, but I wasn't afraid to let it affect me. I wasn't going to have it. Yeah. So if that's irresponsible and negligent, you know, like, what I did was no one died. No one, you know, people did get sick, but it wasn't, if you want a contact trace, it wasn't from the gym. The healthy people stayed healthy.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I got to imagine, if you didn't already have a loyal following and you know, clients that come into your gym, you will now moving forward, that you were able to stay open.
Yeah, and you know, like, it was even sad to see like other gym owners in the Tucson community were diming each other out. They were trying to call a place, and I was like, listen, if you guys fuck with my money and my business, like, it's not like I'm not gonna see you at a jiu-jitsu tournament. It's not like I'm not gonna see you at a fight night. Like, you know, the fact that we were diming each other out, it was sad to see. Like, I don't need your members. I'm not going to call the health department to get you shut down and steal your members. But there was people that were trying to do that. And it was like, I was like, bro, literally, this is the one thing we are all in together. Like, as business owners, we're all in this together. Like, if you guys continue to train, I'm not going to say shit. And I expect the same from you. Don't say shit. And there was people like, no, we need to march to the governor's office, and we need to go to the Capitol, and we need to bring attention to our cause. And I go, why would you bring attention to us? They're not paying attention to us. When the Arizona state mandate came out, it was gymnasiums, health clubs, and membership fitnesses, right? And I go, it says nothing about martial arts dojos in there, says nothing about dance studios, says nothing about yoga. They were very specific when they said river tubing operations. And if anyone's slightly familiar with the law cannot be implied. It has to be explicit, right? You cannot be super specific with river tubing operations and then say, oh, gymnasiums, you know, fitness and health clubs. That's what needs to be shut down. Okay, well, we're a martial arts dojo. We don't fall under that category. And I printed out the mandate, so if anyone ever came to my business, I would be like, where does it say jiu-jitsu? Where does it say martial arts? Where does it say yoga? Where does it say any of that? Oh, well, it's implied. It can't be implied. It has to be direct. Because within your vague ambiguity is where my loophole lies. And I sent it off to my, you know, like, Iridium Sports Agency has, you know, Jason House and Lance Spouty, who's an amazing lawyer. And I said, hey, dude, like, this is what the state mandate says, and this is my counter argument. Like, does it hold water? And he's like, oh, absolutely. He's like, you'll get fined and you'll go to court. But if you present the mandate and how your business license is referred to, which is miscellaneous instruction, right? That's what my business license is. Miscellaneous instruction. No one at the city board is like looking down a list like, okay, gymnasium, 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness, miscellaneous instruction. Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? So that was where my loophole was and how I continue to operate during the whole thing.
Well, I really appreciate you shedding some light on all of that, and taking me through your journey and what it's been. Because I know it's been a little awkward for a lot of different gym owners, especially in my area. So I'm glad to hear things are going well for you, my man. Let's talk about that fight with Gustavo Lopez, your teammate, your friend, and you got to fight this guy, man. Like, what was that like? You talk about a hard mindset going into it. I mean, I imagine it would be for myself. What was it like for you?
Uh, Ding, ding, ding. Round 157. Go. You know what I mean? Like, the crazy people are like, oh, like, you guys train together. Like, no, motherfuckers. When I said we were best friends and when we were main training partner, when I come to Las Vegas, Gustavo's who I work with. I work with Gustavo at 10th Planet Vegas, and I work with Gustavo at Extreme Couture. You know what I mean? Like, that's my dude. So people were like, oh, you guys are like legitimately friends. And I'm like, yes. Like, I wasn't bullshitting. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's people that I've trained with before and like we're acquaintances that I fought, but no, me and Gustavo, we've been at this for a long time together now. So I had been getting jerked around all summer. Like, I signed with Iridium Sports Agency the second week in June. I shit you not. When I say for 14 weeks straight, 15 weeks straight, I had an opponent name on Monday. And I was roofing this whole time. I was working for my family's roofing company. So I would go in at 4:30 in the morning, get off the roof at 4:30 in the afternoon. And, Jason House is calling me at lunch like, hey, I need you to get off the roof right now and go get your blood test done or go get your eyes done. They got to match it for you. They got to match it for you. It's between you and one other guy. So Monday, I'd get all excited. Tuesday, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh, dude, they're finalizing stuff right now. Wednesday, I wouldn't hear anything. Thursday, Jason would be like, hey, would you buy your own plane ticket out here? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So finally, he calls me. He's like, hey, they asked for you by name for this weekend. And I pulled up SureDog and I looked at the event and I was like looking at who's on there. And I go, it's fucking Gustavo, isn't it? He's like, yeah. And I go, do they know we're teammates? And he's like, yeah. And I go, is that why he asked for me by name? And they're like, yeah. And I go, yeah, I can make 145. Because all the 135ers that House was getting in at the time were fighting at 145s on short notice. So I go, yeah, I can make 145, no problem. He goes, they want you at 36. And I go, dude, Jesus. If you guys watched my Instagram at all, I was cross-dressing on Friday because it was Halloween. And I was dressed as a girl, twerking and getting drunk as shit. And on Monday, I'm getting the call to be in the UFC. You know what I mean? It was like, I think I was 163, 164 when I got the call on Monday, and I cut 30-some pounds basically in 3 days.
Wow.
And when I got the call, Gustavo, as soon as I hung up with House, Gustavo called me. And he goes, hey, dude. And I go, what's up, bro? And he goes, are you good with this? And I go, yeah, man, I'm good with this. Are you good? And he goes, listen. He goes, this is a win-win for us because you get back into the UFC. I know how long you've been trying to. So from the second week in June to November is how long I had been getting dicked around. You know what I mean? Like, it was just constant blue balls. Like, hey, you're fighting this weekend. Just kidding. They went with somebody else. Hey, you're fighting this weekend. Just kidding. They went with somebody else. Finally, it's real. And Gustavo's like, you're my brother, dude. Like, you get back in the UFC and I get to stay in the UFC. And, it's right before Christmas. You and me get some Christmas money for the kids and stuff. And we'll share a beer after. Like, it's all respect, it's all love. Let's go bang it out and then have a beer. And I go, fuck yeah, dude, let's do it. And like, the hardest thing was coaching, because Extreme didn't want to coach me. Extreme didn't want to coach him. Coach Casey didn't want to coach me. Coach Casey didn't want to coach him. So I brought a bunch of my brown belts. You know what I mean? And my jiu-jitsu was handled by one of my students. And then my Muay Thai was handled by, one of my coaches, Renee Leon, who's done, my Muay Thai and pads before. But, they're all just kids. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest opportunity they've ever had as far as, the UFC. Like, Renee's cornered me at another UFC fight. But, it was rough, man. It was a rough thing. So I'm glad now I can bounce back, have a camp, and really show what I'm able to do, man, because I look like hot shit in that fight.
Tell me the difference, if there is one. Like, obviously, when you're in there sparring with your friend, with your teammate, and then you get locked inside the octagon together, there has to be a little bit of a difference, right? Do you really go full tilt when you're sparring versus when you're in the octagon? Because when you're in the UFC cage, it's got to be different, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, there was a point when, we're getting announced and I'm looking across the cage and Gustavo's like smiling and like, I'm like, oh, I better fucking get serious. Like, ugh, fuck, like, Jesus Christ, this isn't sparring. This isn't sparring. Like we're going to need to fucking turn up on each other. There was some opportunities when Gustavo could have just landed devastating elbows to me and didn't. And that's out of respect. You know what I mean? Like, if that was anybody else, he would have mashed him up. And I appreciate him not doing that to me. So, yeah, it was different for sure, but there was still like this weird sense of like familiarity, you know what I mean? And it was hard to get rid of.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, to anybody that's a UFC newbie that might not know that your career in totality, you've already been in the UFC before, and you had to work your way back here now, man. Like, how difficult was that to be out of the promotion and then have to stay focused on the grind and get back here?
Oh, dude, super difficult. Like, I remember telling people, like, if I get into the UFC and I go, 1-2 barbecue, like, I'm not going to try to get back in. Like, it shows me that I'm just not meant to be there. Right. But me knocking out Joe Soto and then beating a Ultimate Fighter finalist, like, shows that I'm here. The one true loss that I should have only had was Thomas Almeida, and like, I should have never lost to Ian Entwistle. Me getting heel hooked was how I transitioned to 10th Planet, because the jiu-jitsu I was learning in the gi was not the jiu-jitsu I needed at that time. I had never even seen a leg lock, so it was like, that was dumb. That was a dumb loss because of the inexperience of my instructor at that time, who was only doing gi jiu-jitsu, and it was like, dude, that was just carelessness. Like, we shouldn't have lost that fight. I should have been 3-1 in my first opportunity in the promotion. And if you look at my fight with Thomas Almeida, I was fucking him up until, I got hit in the back of the head when I rolled, and then my equilibrium was all off. And then he literally he started, steamrolling stuff, and he got some momentum, and it was really hard to bounce back from.
Yeah, and here you are now back in the UFC. The bantamweight division right now, man, is as good as I feel like it's ever been. When you look at the top tier, I mean, how far away do you feel like you are from that? I mean, how many wins you're gonna have to string together before you're getting these top 15, top 10 matchups that I'm sure you want?
Yeah, it's different now, right? Like, the first time when I was younger and I was just this, kid with blood that was piss and vinegar, like, I'll take anybody at any time. Like, fighting Joe Soto, cool. Fighting Thomas Almeida when nobody wanted to fight him, when he was 21-0 with 19 knockouts, cool. Let's go fucking wrestle him. You know what I mean? Fighting Dylan O. Lopez, the guy was 19-2 with like 12 guillotine finishes. Yeah, cool. Let's fight him. This time, it's like, you don't always have to say yes. You need to be patient. You know what I mean? And like, right now, like, I kind of have, now that the Johnny Eduardo thing, the Tony Gravely thing, and there's another dude that I'm looking at in that whole division, like, I kind of have a 3-step process to where I want to get to, right? Like, okay, fine. I lost to Gustavo because I was irresponsible. I was drinking and partying, Halloween weekend. And I took a short notice fight to get my foot back in the door. Okay. That's an understandable loss. But now, like, when I look at what Tony Gravely is strong at, he's a wrestler. You know what I mean? And he's got great wrestling. But he's going to take me down to where he has not shined before. He's 20-6, and out of the 6 losses, he's been submitted 5 times. So, like, that's fine. Take me down. Also, I wrestled in college. It's not like, this is the UFC. Everybody wrestled in college, or everyone's a black belt. You know what I mean? Like, I respect what he brings to the table, but I don't fear it at all. Like, I think the game plan we have right now is solid with the little tricks that I have up my sleeve. Like, I think now realistically, 7 fights away from, fighting in the top 10, unless like something happens where I'm coming off of a quick win, and someone in the top 10 has an opponent fall out, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I feel good. Let's go. You know what I mean? But right now, the bantamweight division reminds me of 170 and 155 in its heyday. Like, there's just nothing but killers in the top 10, bro.
Yeah.
Nothing but killers.
I love it. It makes for so many interesting matchups when you look at 135 moving forward. Let's just say, you and Gravely's wrestling cancel each other out. I mean, both you guys have some credentialed wrestling backgrounds here. If this fight ends up just staying on the feet for the duration, do you feel like you're the better striker? You're going to be able to clip him and maybe finish him here?
Bro, come on. You know the answer to that. Yeah, dude, I'm long. I'm rangy. The dude's 5'5". You know what I mean? Like, when you saw him against, who was it? The Brazilian that he won a split decision against, right? He was getting touched up, and he got hurt with like a 1-2-3 basic combo, got rocked, and immediately shot in. And the Brazilian down blocked, pummeled, brought him back up to his feet and defended the takedown. And even when he got taken down, I'm faster than him. My hands are faster. I have better striking credentials than he does. Like, I right now, like Coach Ray Sefo, the legend of K1 kickboxing, has got me dialed in. And it's nothing flashy. It's nothing fancy. Too many of these dudes are trying to, switch stances and get all crazy. And it's like basics wins fights, man. And like, that last kid that just fought on this last card, from Hard Knocks, or from Henry Hooft, the Sanford MMA kid, he threw a jab, he threw a cross, he threw a 1-2, and he looked amazing, cutting his angles, landing his strikes, and like, I just think if he can't take me down, he's gonna get ranged out. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna hurt him, and he's gonna take a bad shot, and I'm gonna choke him. Also, what's he gonna do when I put him on his back? I'm gonna take his ass down and ground and pound him. I'm gonna be in his guard, slicing him up with elbows, ground and pounding the shit out of him, passing his guard, and just continuously raining down. Anywhere this goes, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, like, I'm way better. I just have way more experience. I've been in the ring and cage with the best of the best. There's nobody. I don't think anybody on his resume, is the whole package. Like the guys that he's been beat by, like Brett Johns and Ricky Bandejas and Merab Davashvili. Those guys are high caliber dudes, and I consider myself that caliber.
Ultimately, how does this finish? How do you see yourself winning? Does it get out of the first round? Like, what do you envision happening come fight night?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to get out of the first round, but I can finish it. If I take my time and I pick my shots, I've never looked to finish a fight, right? I've always looked to implement my game to a point where they make a mistake or feel pressured into doing something that lands right in my lap. And it's always been that way. I go out and do my game, and they panic, and they either take a shitty shot, or they drop their hands at the wrong time. And like I said, I damn near have as many knockouts or TKOs as I do submissions. Like, I finish fights. That's the end of that. So I'm just gonna truck along, man. Whenever that fight ends, it ends. If it ends up being a 3-round war, the strike count at the end is going to be, in my favor. That's just the way it's going to happen.
How active are you trying to stay in 2021? If you go out and get this win and beat Gravely, are you looking to get in there, 3-4 more times? Like,
I would love to knock out the rest of my contract this year. I really feel that I could get on a 3-fight winning streak. You know what I mean? Like, beating Gravely and then like talking shit to Johnny Eduardo and being like, yo, get your fucking papers right, dog. Like, let's go. And, then beating the shit out of Johnny Eduardo and retiring him. And then looking at, the Brazilian that lost the split decision to Tony Gravely. I keep forgetting his name. But he's about my size. and I think that's another spectacular matchup for me.
I can tell you who it is right now. It's Geraldo de Freitas.
Geraldo de Freitas, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great matchup. You know what I mean? So there's a couple of guys that I have on my radar. There's some dudes that I wanted my first time around in the UFC. You know what I mean? So I think the sky's the limit this year. Like, I could literally knock out 3 fights. You know, like I said, COVID is it's starting to loosen up. You know, and let go of the stranglehold that it has on people, and people are flying in from out of country now. But there's still all kinds of problems, man. Like, people are still going to need to test negative for COVID, and people are still going to have their visas right. And if other countries are, you know, squashing visas to come here, then yeah, I can just stay active, stay ready, and say yes and answer the call.
Awesome. Well, I know I can't wait for this one, my man. Anthony Birchak will face Tony Gravely April the 17th at UFC Vegas 24. I very much appreciate the time, man. Before I let you go, tell people where they can find you on social media. And if you happen to have any sponsors, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. First and foremost, I want to thank my management, Jason House and Jacob Parga at Iridium Sports Agency, for getting me back to the UFC. You know what I mean? I had a long, hard road outside. I was really trying to get back in, and they made it happen. So I really have to thank Jason. You know, and I got to thank my gym, man, 10th Planet Tucson and Toro Tech Mixed Martial Arts for making it so I don't always have to leave to get the best training. Like, you know, now my students are some of my best training partners, and we're building something very special in Tucson, Arizona. And I invite all fighters to come out and camp with us and have a good time. And then, again, I'm super active on social media. So if you guys follow me on Instagram at Birchak MMA, it's BIRCHAK MMA. And same thing on Twitter. Like, I'm always trying to interact with my fans. I answer messages. You know what I mean? I'm always there for people. And I want people to know that I am approachable. I'm not some dickhead and you know, that I'm too Hollywood to answer DMs and shit like that. So I love talking to the fans, and I love the support that I get from them. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I'm excited to bang it out on April 17th. Hey, come out to Tucson, Arizona, guys. This is an invite to everybody. I'm building some champs out there in the desert. 10th Planet Tucson and Toro Tech Mixed Martial Arts.